Good morning, Janice.
Good morning, Anthony.
Today, we will explain why your Bitcoin inheritance plan must be frictionless, or as frictionless as possible. So we've talked before about why a solo Ager estate plan must be frictionless. And as you can imagine, a Bitcoin inheritance plan, even more so, must be as easy as possible to make, is what I mean, to create the plan. All right. So why does it need to be frictionless? Because the best inheritance plan is the one that actually exists.
I think that's the best phrase that you might have come up with because it's so true.
I mean, again, the very well-known statistic is that statistics vary, but between 60 to 70% of people in general, this includes, legacy, not just Bitcoin holders, have no plan at all. Zero, nothing. So digging into the statistics, what are the reasons why these folks don't have any plan at all? Almost half, about 45%, they just say, oh, just procrastinating.
I have time.
Which is understandable. Who wants to do this stuff? 25% say they're just simply not sure where to start. And we're going to dig into that in a bit.
Yeah,
And then lastly, about 13% say because it's expensive. Maybe you just don't have the funds to do it. And Janice, my understanding, at least in the New York City area, the cost for setting up an estate plan with an attorney will range typically from the $1,500 range to as high as maybe even $4,000. Is it similar to where you're at?
I would say a little bit lower. Just
New York
because
City's
you could do
always
some basic. Yeah, so it's a little bit lower out, in the tri-state, non-New York area, but yeah.
But it is understandable, regardless, that it's a cost that,
Absolutely.
will cause you some hesitation.
Yep. Yes, especially if you don't have the liquid funds to just, yeah.
Okay, so not sure where to start. We're going to get into that a bit. So why does that stop people from making their estate plan and end up having 70% of people having no plan at all? Because making an inheritance plan, any inheritance plan, but more so a Bitcoin plan, is actually a series of tough decisions. And are you familiar with the statistic or the notion that every decision, you only have like a limited amount of brain power for decision making per day?
Yes.
Yeah. And then as you spend that down towards the end of the day, you either are unable to make decisions or you're going to make poor decisions.
Exactly. It's by the end of the day, I'm done. That's it.
Similarly, making a plan you're spending a lot of your decision-making fuel, as it were. I mean, just for example, when you start, am I going to hire a lawyer or do it myself? And then you do your research, your analysis paralysis to figure out which one is the right solution for you. Okay, cool. Let's say you decided on a lawyer. Okay, do I even know a good lawyer? So now you're spending time and energy asking for referrals, interviewing or having consultations with a few, and then deciding which one's the best one for me and my family. Or if you decide to go do it yourself, which software do I use? There's now so many. Fortunately, we have our recommendation for which software, so we can cut that down for you. But that's just another tranche of decisions that you need to make.
And you haven't even gotten to the plan itself. You're just making decisions to jump into the plan. Right.
So then now you have your structure in place, whether it's an attorney or a DIY software. Okay, now you're doing it. You're clicking through or you're talking to the attorney. Do you want a will or do you want a will and trust? Now there's a whole bunch of legal decisions you have to make as you're making your plan.
Exactly.
And then there's the actual plan itself. Who inherits? Oh, oops. I mean, usually, often with the nuclear family, it can be pretty straightforward. But if it's not, or if you wanted to have some charities, if you wanted to, your alma mater, there's all these decisions that you have to make in terms of who gets what amounts, and so forth.
Right.
And then lastly, the one that's that we deal with, or where we can help, I suppose, is okay. Now, who will be my executor or my trustee, or if you have young kids, my guardians? That's just 3+ more decisions you have to make, and. Does that make it understandable why folks don't even want to get started?
There's no question why all of those right there lead to the procrastination, because you get through one decision, it's like, oh, there's another one, and then they're not sure where to start. It's tough. And you're doing all this sometimes after work, you've worked 8 hours, made decisions all day long, and now you're making more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So lastly, bringing this back to the Bitcoin examples or inheritance plan situation, Bitcoin custody adds even more decisions to your inheritance plan that we just talked about.
Yep.
So for example, how do you hold your Bitcoin, and how should you hold your Bitcoin currently as you're living to make transfer upon your death happen? not even like it has to occur. Otherwise, as we've talked about, poof, no Bitcoin for anybody.
Gone. Right.
Or, stuck on the blockchain. And then, okay, whatever solution you think it works best for you while you're living, how technically will that custody transfer to your executor occur upon your passing? So again, now we're beyond a traditional will, lawyer, executor, guardian. You're trying to figure out technical logistics that you don't have to deal with legacy assets. So we're in a whole new realm now. And then, of course, whatever you decide, will that transfer actually work? I don't think people think about this enough. I think people are a bit overconfident from my conversations with Bitcoiners at various events and meetups that whatever they decided will actually happen the way they expect. And as folks, Janice and I, as folks who have seen even stocks, bank accounts, real estate not transfer properly, and those are things that most people are pretty familiar with, and their heirs are pretty familiar with. There's a pretty big risk of failed transfers to your executors or heirs if it's not done well.
Correct.
And then, of course, whatever you decide, you have to figure out, have I compromised my existing security too much to make this happen? Or the flip side of that coin, have I compromised my existing convenience too much to make it as secure as possible? Is it now a pain for me to transact while I'm alive? Or is it easy for me to transact while I'm alive, flipping it back, but now because of the way I have it set up, I'm not really sure if it's secure enough from hackers or accidental loss when it transfers to my heirs. So those are
correct.
A lot of things to think about.
That is a lot of thinking, again, leading back to the procrastination, because it's a lot of decisions.
And that last decision is, okay, who in my circle understands Bitcoin and probate and tax and everything well enough to actually be my executor in this situation? That's a pretty big decision as well. That is a huge question, and to which the answer is most of the time, not everyone. We've talked about this at length. Not everyone's done it, and then you add on the Bitcoin on top of it. Yeah,
it's got to be complicated. Yeah.
Well, that's what we're trying to help out with, to help get Bitcoin to where it needs to be. This is one of the areas that needs to be worked on, and we're doing our best to add to that idea pool. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. I think my favorite part, though, is when you said the best inheritance plan is the one that actually exists, right? At least there's something.
That actually, before I forget, that reminds me of tangent. This is not about Bitcoin. There isn't. You follow football, or you did at all?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Brett Favre, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning. There's an argument that they are the greatest quarterbacks of all time. They are among the greatest quarterbacks of all time, not only because of their performance, but because they were actually available to play every week. Like you could have a Joe Montana or whoever else you might consider one of the greatest, but if they're injured a quarter of the time or at some realm because of the style of their play, like Steve Young was hurt a lot, whatever, then would you rather have Peyton Manning 16 games a season or Steve Young 8 games a season or whatever, 9 games a season? You know what I'm saying? Like 12 games a season.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry. Totally off topic. But yes, the best quarterback might be the one who's actually playing. And the best plan is the one that actually exists. Exactly.
You have to have something because otherwise you have nothing. Right.
Sorry. Totally off topic.
That's okay. I'm picking up what you're throwing down. So recommending Anthony's book, How Probate Works. And remember, when you're reading this book, you need to add on a whole other layer for your Bitcoin because it's going to be more complex. And then hopefully coming soon, we'll have a Bitcoin inheritance book by Anthony. Been pushing for this for a little while, so we'll see. Just keep an eye out.
Working on it.
Yes.
And sorry, but you like how I slid Eli in there with Peyton and Brett?
Yeah, I did.
As a New Yorker.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, totally same level, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Hey, he has 2 rings. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, everyone, for listening.
Here goes all the comments.
Thank you, Janice,
now. Yeah.
as always. And we'll talk soon next time. Take care.
Talk soon.